What's up, guys? So coming to you, we're gonna kick off this season's mine hunting and history hunting extravaganza here with one that's kind of close to home for me. Most of the adits to this place are closed, so it's not going to be a big mine experience, but you're going to get to see a lot of artifacts around here. There's a lot of sign. For one, this here used to be the entrance to a mine. It's pretty obvious, and we'll walk down to the bottom here shortly. But as you can see, like, we're walking right across the trail here, and people really just don't know that it's here. They just don't. They've never taken the time to look, I guess. And as we get here, you know, it looks pretty normal, but then you come here and you can see the old road where they would take the ore carts and stuff and move them around. There's a rather large machine operation to this thing that had some really big pans for sifting larger material, I believe, that we'll see here in a second. We got another tree down. This is different. This is new. We had a good windstorm here not that long ago. I'm guessing that's what all this is from. Alright guys, so we're getting closer. As you can see, like, that area there that used to be a road. That's where the trail is now. And this is the other road. And as you can see, it's pretty thick. It's not that welcoming. There's been a few trees fallen since the last time I was out here. So we'll see how easy it is to even get to. It's definitely thick back here, and it gets to a point where there's a lot of poison oak and some of these areas, like the one we're going to now, they attempted to close it, basically let it backfill with water. It could be easily redone, but it would take time and effort. This part of the foothills is pretty close to town, so there's a couple mines on this hillside. However, most of the adits have been closed up due to poor construction. But this one was ran as recent as the 80s. It has a lot of PVC pipe and newer construction materials that would suggest it. So here's the first adit here, and this one happens to be closed. As you can see how quickly Mother Nature takes things back. About where that pine is where the hole should have started. If you walk it all the way back up, it's collapsed all the way back in there. That being a higher adit than the next one, if it would have been open a little bit, it would have been really profitable, because we probably would have been able to get in above the water level. Now let's see here, because this is going to be real thick. Oh man, yeah. You used to be able to walk that way. All right, guys, I'm gonna come back to you in a second and get through all this. All right, guys, I'm back. So that right there, piping, as you can tell. So we're getting closer now. I got to see that little thick part, a couple of down trees, and we're getting ready to get up on the site right now. I'm starting to see wood and old fence marks. There was an operation big enough to where a foreman probably living out here along with the other guys, but like family and his whole setup, because there's some good foundational work over here that's left back, and you could tell somebody put a little bit of money into this operation. That would be my guess. So this is a bigger open area, so you can tell that this is where living quarters and such were. Man, there's a lot more stuff falling down here than the last time I was out here, so it's gonna be maybe harder to see things. But we have netting, barbed wire composition there, some concrete work, and so they were living out here, and I can tell the animals are coming through here. There's another thing there. Sorry, bad camera work, I guess. A little bit more concrete here. It's like a little pad. We have piping and this concrete pad. So they had to have been living over here. We have a huge hole with some metal here. Have no clue what it was used for, and if you continue on down this way, we have a pretty good garbage pile that they were chucking off to the side. And this does lead me to something. As you can see, all these cans and bottles and stuff, and many of these aren't old enough to make much value, but I brought my dog out here last season, and she ended up getting a cut on her pad pretty good. It was a vet trip I really didn't want to take, and so it's always important to know where these areas are, and she got into it before I knew it was here. So let's see here, we got paint can maybe, possibly, and then we have old bottles here, not to be refilled. No deposit, no return. This is a Douglas. So, not too fancy on bottles. I know brown bottles, green, blue, are a little bit more of value. There's an old green one there. Lots of cans and stuff, indicative of the times and what they were eating. Whole bottles, man, this stuff's cool. And judging by the size of it, they were here for a little bit, at least doing the operation in this facet. You can see a little animal trail there. Mother Nature always takes things back, man. It's a trip. Look at this here. Here's an old plate. Porcelain they were using. This stuff is just too neat. Ooh, I gotta be careful though too. Get a puncture in my foot out here, it'd be a long walk home. Like I said, some of this garbage isn't as old. This place isn't that far off the beaten trail, so you can find it relatively easily, and some pretty neat stuff here though, all the same. Alright guys, I'll check back in with you when I get a little bit closer to the adit. Got a bit more trudging through some brush to do. Alright guys, so I'm back to a point where I can film again. This spiky stuff here is like no joke. You gotta be careful. Oh man, it's a trip. It gets a little bit different to get there each time you go. So I'm starting to see my hillside here, drop face, and that leads me right to my mine. And so a lot of times they would physically do a lot of shit in order to make it more suitable, because some of the places they would pick to go in at, the topography would be unlending. So that's where we're at. It's time to go play. So I'm always looking around to make sure there's no animals. Some of these places are good watering holes, especially up here higher on the mountain. Alright guys, so I'm heading in this one. My feet are gonna get wet. That's okay. That water is colder than fuck. So, things to always remember is some of these mines that I go into, the risk of animals is high. I'm definitely in bear and lion country, and even for how civilized people feel California is, it is quite a wild place still. And so I always look to see if the ground has been agitated recently. The bears out here do not hibernate for a full winter. You don't get cold enough. So they do this omni hibernation. So we can see mold spores and stuff around the side. My gas sensor is not going off, so that's always a good sign. And as I reach around this corner here, I'm going to want to make sure that there again is no signs of agitation. But things that I want to point out here, guys, is that you can get real close to a sleeping bear, even with as loud as I've been. And there are definitely fucking bear tracks out here, okay? So some of these prints I recognize as the ones that I put in here last. And some of these are from a fucking big ass bear. So it's always something you want to look out for. Cat prints and things. These are things that last a long time in this kind of environment. So it's very important to pay close attention to what you're seeing. But you can see there's a lot of blue rock, pyrite mixed in. There's really cool veins in this thing. Old timber there, so you always got to be worried of gases with organic matter. And there's a good amount of sludge here at the bottom. So this is what I mean when they attempted to close this. Is they put this wall up here to keep you from being able to access any deeper. Now, it's a damn shame they did this. As you can see, there's a let off there where you could bleed it out, but then the entry point is so damn deep that you'd have to find a way to hydraulically or gas, you have to pump it out somehow. So that's as far as we can get on this one, unfortunately. And it looks like it might have went deeper at some point, or took a hard left. So this is what we have with this one. There are still old timber pieces here. People are tearing stuff out. The tracks were removed a while ago, but you can find remnants of them outside. We have here a round nail. That kind of tells you about when these tracks may have been put in, or at least resurfaced. The percussions in this thing are quite extravagant, and how jagged this rock is. If you were to let off a firearm inside this mine, the chances of it blowing your ears out are remarkably high, and then the chance of jagged collapse is very high as well. Some of this rock here you can see is not hanging on by much. There's good quartz inside it. However, I wouldn't risk it bleeding out of the wall there. So eventually this thing will begin to collapse in on itself. The water is not a mine's friend. The old timber's there. It's a shorter mine. Pack rats. There's a bat there. That's kind of neat. Another little hole up there too. Look at that. Just the one. Just the one little guy. Oh shit. Yep. Oh, I'm glad it was just one, so that way a lot of them come at once. It can be a problem. We can kick up a lot of gas. Their poop in particular is very toxic in high quantities. Some of the neat things you see inside of a mine. See, like now coming back through, it's important to remember where there were any nails sticking out, because now you can't see anything on the way out. It's very important to remember these small tidbits and make them a habit. This is definitely on the more dangerous side of hobbies, so you want to make sure that you're very cautious. To be fearful even. It's smart. You really want to stay alive and be able to do this. More and more of this history is eroding away literally every day. So it's very important that we do our part. Well, thanks guys. I appreciate you guys coming along for this trip. We're back at the entry point here. And that was our mine. Short and sweet, but well worth the documentation. This was a big producer back in the day. Until the next one, guys. Thanks. I appreciate you.